tangled mangrove forest on the Bay of Bengal is the kingdom of a creature rarely seen by humans. One of the most efficient predators on Earth, this animal is feared as a killer and a man-eater. The legendary swamp tiger. These tigers are so elusive that all attempts to track them in these impenetrable swamps ended in failure. 2 years ago, cameraman Mike Hurd captured the swamp tiger on film for the first time. It was an extraordinary breakthrough, the first glimpse into the secret life of the least known tiger in the world, the swamp tiger of the Bangladeshi Sundarbans. This first tiger footage was tantalizing and all too brief. But for Mike, it was enough to stir a passion. He resolved to return and unravel the secrets of this mysterious creature.
The tigers have never been filmed here before, and I knew that it could be done. I'd gone so far along the road to getting the tigers, and then we just ran out of time. I haven't filmed in mangrove forest before, and it's just such a fantastic place to actually see these amazing animals walking around in these forests. That's what appealed to me, and that's what I really wanted to see.
The Sundarbans are remote and dangerous. Mike will need an armed guard day and night. Somewhere in these 6,000 square miles, 10,000 square kilometers, are a few hundred tigers, yet the only way to track them is on foot.
We've just been following these tracks along here. I don't know how old they are, but here's some tiger feces, and I don't know how fresh it is. You can get a stick and give it a poke. Oh, it's pretty old. Yeah. Quite old.
The team will be here for the next 6 months. Rubai Mansour knows the area intimately. He's been bringing small parties of naturalists here since he was a child. Without his help, finding the tigers in this labyrinth would be impossible.
Yes, hello, Master Sahib.
Hello.
Rubai makes sure their floating mobile home, the Al-Buddha, keeps as close as possible. For safety, it must never be out of radio contact. The nearest settlement is over a day away. 4 mighty rivers rise in the Himalayas and pass through Bangladesh, dividing into small streams and channels to pour into the sea in the Bay of Bengal. They form an intricate mangrove delta, a collection of sandbanks and mud held together by tangled roots. Floodwaters carry human victims downstream. Corpses are washed onto the muddy banks of the Sundarbans, giving some tigers the taste for human flesh. Every year, up to 100 people are killed by tigers. Yet for the poor, there is no alternative. These fishermen spend months on board their boats, trying to avoid the bandits who steal their catch and their belongings. They practice an ancient fishing technique. Trained otters drive the fish into their nets so that the men can haul them up. Controlled by a simple harness, they force the fish from their hiding places in the reeds and into open water. The otters are awarded with their own fish meal from time to time. As they chew the fish, they flick them from one side of their mouths to the other to keep a firm grip while still swimming. They make a good living. On the muddy bank, the first telltale trace of the tiger, a recent set of pug marks leading deep into the forest. Then more evidence, huge claw marks on a tree.
Tigers are jumping up on here, the scratch marks. You can see the mud where they've been standing. Amazing. They're walking all the way along here.
The air is thick with the pungent smell of tiger. Mike believes it must be a tigress, and the set of muddy prints confirm she is still very close.
Female tiger.
Trying to track a tiger and film it on foot would be very dangerous, probably impossible. Mike's best chance is to base himself in a likely location and wait for the tiger to come to him. Building a safe hide 10 feet up in the air is the next step. He will spend up to 48 hours at a time here, and he can't risk being seen. Tigers have eyesight 6 times better than humans.
Need lots of this. Because we're so close to the tigers, we need lots of this mesh so that they don't see my face.
An adult tiger measures 9 feet, about 3 meters from head to tail. Jumping up to Mike in his hide would be very possible, and some of these giants are said to relish human flesh. Mike has his own way to defend himself.
If they do try to get up here, I've got this, which is my starting pistol, and all it does is it makes a very big loud noise. And I've also got a marine flare that will scare off anything.
From now on, he's on his own. The rest of the team will wait offshore in the boat. The hide offers a clear view into the magical forest. Now ruled by the tiger, at one time it was filled with buffalo, Indian bison and rhino. They were hunted out by shooting parties 100 years ago. But some animals still thrive in this watery jungle. Red-faced macaque monkeys watch over their youngsters as they play at eating leaves and fruits. As the infants reach sexual maturity, their faces will redden too. Still relying on mother's milk, the baby picks fruit and drops it to the forest floor. Perhaps he is just copying what the adults do. Living in large family troops of 20 to 30 animals, they form a tight, clannish community. Grooming each other is reassuring and reaffirms their close family bonds. High in the trees, these youngsters will grow up in relative safety. With their keen senses and deft movements, they are rarely prey for the tiger. But the messy eating habits of the macaques, chewing bits of Kiora leaf and then discarding them, make them vital companions for the favorite tiger victim, the spotted deer or cheetah. Licking off insects and moisture first, the macaques send a constant rain of debris to the forest floor. Deer will seek out macaques from up to 70 yards, 60 meters away, and follow them all day. Kiora leaves are also the main diet of the spotted deer, so keeping the macaques in their sights means they will be well fed without any effort on their part. A troop this size will drop over a ton of leaves in the course of a year. It appears a relaxed relationship, but monkeys and deer live in constant fear of the tiger. In fact, the monkeys provide an even more crucial service for the deer. The keen-eyed macaques are ever alert to the presence of the tiger and will screech out a warning whenever it comes near. Spotted deer are ideal prey for the tiger, so the deer stay close to the monkeys, following them for hours on end. The deer have learned to make do. Outside the mangrove forest, they prefer eating grass. Reaching the leaves can be hard work, and after a time, all the easier pickings have been taken. The males at least can stretch that far on their hind legs. The females cannot compete and only get in the way. They're moved on with a gentle nudge. The trees are meticulously trimmed to the level the deer can reach. But this is strenuous work, and the rewards are slim. Better to rely on following the trail of the monkeys, especially if you're small. Having found a leaf, this fawn finds it not quite to its taste. It still hasn't been weaned, and mother's milk is sweeter. Keeping one ear alert to the warning cry of the macaques, mother relies not only on the leaves discarded by the monkeys, but also food washed in by the tide and trapped by the mangrove roots. The Sundarbans is a constantly changing world. Mud-laden floodwaters enter the delta and mix with the tides that bathe the roots of the mangroves twice a day. Saturated with topsoil dragged from the Himalayas and fields along the way, the floodwaters are slowed and the mud settles. As the tides recede, it builds up in the gnarled roots and slowly forms a new forest floor. Along the coast, the constant flooding also causes great damage. Mud is washed away from the roots of the trees and they lose their tenuous grip. Old forest dies and becomes a graveyard. To survive here, animals have to adapt to every change. With plenty of prey around, Mike had expected to find evidence of the tiger, but he was disappointed, and it's time to move on. The team are moving deeper into the jungle. The mangrove roots pierce the cloying mud in search of air. The mud is unpleasant and sticky, but it reveals new evidence. It has captured a deep imprint of a tiger, fresh pug marks which must have been made just minutes ago.
This is actually a really, really nice place. It's what I've been looking for. It's really good. It's got all these aerial routes. This says Sundarbans, and there was a tiger here.
A new hide is built and concealed by palms. Mike is expecting a long wait, but he's taken by surprise. Through the trees, 2 weeks after arriving in the Sundarbans, Mike catches his first glimpse of the creature he is trying so hard to understand.
I spent the whole night in the hide, and I could hear them feeding. I could hear the bones cracking. So I knew the tigers were around. I saw this scruffy young tiger coming out of the forest, and it was all wet and dirty looking, and it looked like it had just crossed a creek. But it was amazing to see it because I'd heard it during the night, and it looked very, very scared. It was incredibly apprehensive, but maybe that was because it was on its own. So there must have been another tiger around. I guess the cub was probably about 8 or 9 months old. And then there were two. And I thought, well, that makes sense because a cub this size wouldn't be on its own. But if there are two cubs, where's mother?
The two young cubs hang around nervously for some 30 minutes, alone in the open forest.
It was obvious that the cubs were from the same family because cubs from different family groups wouldn't tolerate each other. They must have been siblings because I couldn't tell them apart. Stripes were so similar. They did seem to be waiting for something. And then I could see Mum just looking at me through the trees. And again, she was quite apprehensive, but she came into the clearing and sat down. But she watched me all this time, and although the cubs were walking around, I had to be really careful and not move the lens too quickly in case I scared them off. One cub came up and nuzzled Mum.
Sundarban's tiger. Now he films 4 of them all at once. To perfect his view of the tigers and better observe their behavior, Mike looks out of sight for another hide in a parallel channel.
The middle of the hide should be directly in line with me here. Okay?
Okay.
He is going to try out an idea he's been thinking about for a while. He's going to put a hide right in the water. That way his chances of seeing the tiger in the open will be greatly increased. No one has tried this before, but Mike has spent so long working out how this special tiger operates, he reckons he will have a good chance of filming them from here. All the bamboos and planks for the sturdy tower or machan had to be brought here by boat. Since this hide sits quite low, Mike will be vulnerable, so the hide is virtually a cage. The local team are amazed.
Smiling at Alias. He's saying that when first time we built machans, it took us 4 planks, 4 bamboos. Now it takes 20 planks, 50 bamboos. And a cage.
It's secure, and once clothed in greenery, looks well disguised. But the tigers would almost certainly be aware of Mike's presence. Their sense of smell is acute. Once he begins, Mike will be on his own for many long hours, and once the tigers turn up, he will be unable to get out of the hide until they leave the scene. The view is different and distinctive. Mike's first visitor is a brilliantly colored jungle fowl, ancestor of the domestic chicken. It searches for insects through the roots, its feathers iridescent against the gray sludge. There are no tigers, but all around are birds, such as the golden-backed woodpecker and the curious racket-tailed drongo. As well as deer and the occasional monkey, wild boar are also food for tigers. In exchange for a ride, the jungle crows groom the boar, who seem deceptively docile. But boar feed on deer too, and will attack and bring down live animals. A mother with cubs to feed will hunt at any time, day or night. Each time the cubs move away from their mother or come back from an exploratory trip, they exchange reassuring nuzzles. Sometimes they will follow her, but not tonight. With 4 mouths to feed, she needs to make a kill every 2 or 3 days. On her own, she could survive for a week. One of the most successful predators on Earth, the tiger moves without a sound. It relies completely on stealth. A successful hunt depends on getting close enough to take its prey by surprise. Strong swimmers, Sundarban's tigers have been known to take their victims in the water. Deer rush frantically, perhaps aware that a tiger is about. But how can they know where the attack will come from? In the dawn light, a baby deer pines for its mother. The smell of death attracts 2 thieves to her corpse. The tigress has gone to collect her cubs, and the deer carcass has been found by hungry scavengers. Still warm, her flesh is firm and spongy. The tiger and her cubs would feed on this carcass for several days. Decayed flesh is to their taste and easier to tear apart. Defeated by the fresh carcass, the young boar sidles around its mother to find a way in. The soft rump is perfect. The tigress arrives ahead of her cubs, protectively cautious. She needs to give the greedy wild boar no warning. But not even they would challenge the swamp tiger. Just her presence arouses fear.
She chased off the wild boar, and the cubs were not far behind. But this is really, really amazing because my hide is the lowest it's been so far, just above the water line. And she could smell me.
The bold location of the second hide has paid off.
But I think that she was getting used to my smell. She was actually getting used to me being there. Although she didn't like me being there, she was actually quite okay about it.
Today, her cubs will have full bellies. But raising 3 growing tigers to maturity will take over 2 years. They still need their mother. It will be another 8 months before they can hunt their own food. By that time, she will be exhausted. The cubs are now playful. They need to feed often, but their appetites are quickly satisfied.
She was growling away, and I could see that she wasn't really that happy with me being there. She was just tolerating my presence. She was definitely reacting to me being there. While she was growling, I was pleased to see that she was distracted by something in the trees, probably a bird. I suppose if she was really determined, she could have run the 25 meters or so to the hide. But I never really thought she would do that. And then she went off down to the creek and had a drink. People have thought that tigers do drink the brackish waters in the creek, but nobody's actually seen that before.
Legend has it that drinking salt water altered these tigers' metabolism and turned them into man-eaters, a theory that's never been proven. In 3 or 4 days' time, this mother will need to kill again, but the pressure on her hunting skill will eventually force the cubs to try hunting alone. Suddenly, something Mike hasn't bargained for. A much bigger tiger appears at the kill. He has no idea what might happen.
It was a male, and I felt a bit vulnerable. I thought that it must have been a male known to the female because there was no reaction. She was very relaxed about this male coming in.
Taking their cue from their mother, the cubs hang back and watch.
In fact, it may well have been the territorial male or a very close relative of the female. If that had been a male that she wasn't used to, the cubs would have run off and she would have stood her ground.
Rogue males, outsiders, could even kill cubs to bring the mother back into season. This male is clearly no threat. Only a close blood relative would be tolerated at the family meal table. Could this tiger be the father of her cubs? Mike Hurd is due to leave the Sundarbans for a month. The first stage of his filming has been more successful than he could ever have imagined.
It's been an amazing place, absolutely amazing.
What have you seen?
5 tigers. Just amazing.
Separately, or were they all together?
All together, one family, a female and 3 cubs.
Wow.
All together.
With tiger numbers like this, it's no wonder local fishermen are fearful. There could be more tigers here than anyone has ever imagined. Despite the dangers, the poor from the north have no choice but to come here. At dawn each day, women trawl for shrimps, defenseless in the shallow water against the tiger. There have been 13 reported deaths in the last few months, and many attacks go unreported. Despite up to 100 people being killed by tigers each year, the landless poor pursue the riches of the Sundarbans season after season. Perilous for humans, the rich debris-filled water makes this a flourishing nursery for fish and a paradise for birds. Fish fleeing from underwater predators are an easy target for egrets. The paddy bird has to work harder to catch shrimps. The rare masked finfoot is a mangrove specialist, superbly adapted to catching crabs. The macaques have adapted well to this unique and dangerous world. Watching its mother closely, the baby decides to try the same dish. The macaques have learned to harvest the fruits of the mud banks, seeking out the most delicate of mangrove seed pods with uncanny skill. Living in a muddy world seems to have made the macaques especially fastidious. The pod is highly nutritious and full of protein. Even though the spotted deer can run faster than the tiger, drinking at the waterside makes them very vulnerable. If caught by surprise, they must swim. And tigers are quicker swimmers. It's the one time the macaques need to be on their guard. Wild otters, a different species from those corralled by the fishermen, bark out a warning. Perhaps they can smell a hungry tiger. They retreat to the relative safety of the creek. The Sundarbans are a series of ever-shifting islands, and to survive here, all of the animals must be able to swim or fly from danger. The tiger is king here. In January, the team returns to set up their next hide. Mike's confident he will film his family of 4 again.
I saw her this morning crossing a stream with the 3 cubs. And they're heading this way, so we don't want to lose her now. We've got 2 different locations with the same family in it. It's looking really good.
There are rumors of poachers or bandits in the area. Mike is worried. He can probably protect himself from tigers. Humans are more dangerous, and this hide leaves him very exposed.
What was that?
Did anybody hear that? Yeah? I don't know, it wasn't me, was it you, no?
They are unsure who is shooting at them, but they know there are tiger poachers in the Sundarbans and also illegal loggers and bandits. Obviously, the presence of a film team for months at a time is inconvenient. In the end, they decide to make a quick exit. It was unmistakably a warning.
We said tigers are dangerous!
At all times, the team has been accompanied by an armed guard as a safety precaution. But a show of strength the next day seems imperative. The hide has been wrecked. They've stolen planks and will cause more delay.
Somebody's come and stolen some of the planks on the machine, but 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
A red flag above the hide is set up as a crude warning. And Mike goes back to work in spite of the danger. At this stage, Mike is convinced he has sighted the mother and 3 cubs again. The question is, can he get the cameras in the right place a second time? A colony of huge water monitor lizards, some of them 9 feet or almost 3 meters long, have taken up residence on the beach. A huge male is on guard. There is a rigid pecking order, and he is at the top. Another male wants to challenge him, but how welcome is he likely to be? He'll have to fight the dominant male to get a foothold here. These lizards have razor-sharp jaws, but the aim seems to be to squeeze each other into submission. These reptilian giants are extremely strong with powerful leg muscles. They can easily outrun a human. Their tussles are more ritual than territorial. One of the tactics is to wrestle the opponent to the ground. They are fairly well matched. Inflating of the throat and body is designed to intimidate their rival. Other monitor lizards already know their place and keep their distance. The newcomer has had just about enough. He's on the lookout for a quick getaway. No one else wants to take up the challenge, it seems. The fight is over, and the resident male keeps his status intact. But the defeated intruder survives unharmed to try his luck elsewhere. Surprisingly soon, Mike's tigers have turned up again. Mother and 3 cubs. As the season wears on, the intensity of the heat becomes almost unbearable. The monsoon is now just 2 months away, but the humidity makes everyone uncomfortable. Now almost fully grown, these cubs will have to make their own way soon, alone. In preparation, the cubs are becoming bolder, spending more time exploring the area away from their resting site. As yet, they are not taking risks.
One of the cubs got a bit of a shock when it sniffed a tree. I think there must have been some scent left from another tiger.
They still seem deeply involved with their mother, signaling each time they wander off and return. The long middle of the day stretches out for 8 hot hours. The temperatures reach more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or 40 Celsius, with 95% humidity. Tigers don't sweat, but panting helps them keep their bodies in equilibrium.
Every hide I made, I always felt that I was getting closer and closer to the tigers. But this was the closest yet. When I was that close, I could hear them panting in the heat. They were having a job keeping their temperature down. As I was filming, a jet flew over, and just so typical of these animals, anything that moves or makes a sound has to be checked out.
Being so close to this family makes Mike question their identity.
I could also get a clearer view of the markings of this female, and they were definitely different to the other animals I'd filmed. It was then I realized that there were in fact 2 females with 2 different sets of cubs.
On the side of her face, a distinctive cross pattern tells Mike that what he is beginning to suspect is right. This is another female, with another set of 3 cubs. The previous mother had totally different facial markings. Mike realizes that the cubs belonging to the first mother were smaller, and he now knows he has filmed 2 families living next to each other on either side of a small creek. It is totally unexpected. Yet the markings on this new female's face make it impossible to ignore. Her cubs are several months older, probably aged over a year. No wonder they spend more time away from their mother. Catching hold of each other's heels, they are already practicing to hunt alone. The first rains come early, clearing the air but adding to the humidity and lowering the temperature by a few degrees. Keen to follow the new family, Mike is unable to get to the hide. Once the rain set in for good, it will be time to leave the Sundarbans. The jungle will turn into an impenetrable swamp and become dangerous as the swirling monsoon waters pour through the channels to the bay. At that time, no one dares come here. Soon the cubs must leave their mother, and they are now hunting with her every day. Learning to catch their own food is now a priority. It's not going to be easy. They must get within 20 yards of the deer before making their final attack, and the deer are alert. Success depends on patience and cunning. Foot stamping and upright tail show that the deer are aware of the tiger. The male cub is very determined. As yet, they don't know which direction he's coming from. Mother keeps a close eye. If he makes a wrong move, she will step in. Seeing her chance, the big tigress begins her final stalk. But the youngster has blown it. He's in too much of a hurry. He couldn't wait. There's nothing his mother can do now. But the cub must learn fast. Soon he will be on his own. He doesn't seem to understand quite how the deer got away. Soon she will give up feeding them and the cubs will find their own way or not survive. The females may stay quite near their mother's territory, but the young male will eventually move far away from here. In 18 months' time, she will have another litter to raise. Both females have proven to be skilled mothers. Two thriving families so close to one another is remarkable, not only because of their mother's skill, but evidence too of a strong protective male. He has probably sired all 6 cubs.
Well, this is by far the most difficult expedition I've ever had. I understood just how hostile the Sundarbans could be to human beings. Perhaps that's made them the most vital sanctuary on Earth, a refuge for the most thriving population of tigers on the planet. Maybe even the last. When I left the Sundarbans this time, I had a stronger attachment to this place than I've ever felt anywhere else, and especially to the tigers. There is still so much to learn about these tigers here that I'm sure I'll be back.
The Bangladeshi Sundarbans, an alien world for humans, the perfect haven for the most successful tiger population in the world.